Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. He is a healer, an intuitive. He's a coach. He's a hypnotist. He's an acupuncturist. He helps people move their lives forward, feel better, realize their purpose, and so much more. And we're going to talk a little bit deeper today on the process and how he does what he does. He's our professional of the year. Distefano is back with us. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you. How are you, Steve?
Really well. Really well. I've learned a lot from you and also have had a lot validated by some of the things that we've talked about in the past. Today, we're going to, I detect that we're going to kind of boil it down to the essentials in terms of what you do and why you do it and what the outcome might be. Am I hearing that right?
Yes. Today, what I want to do, this is going to sound a little strange, but I want to give listener value. I want someone to walk away from this saying, that was worth my time. And it's really, I'm going to give a timeline because I know before I started, I'd see acupuncturists treat every condition. But if I go to see a real doctor, I have to see a doctor for my bones. I have to see a doctor for my this, and it's all separate. And I thought there was power in that specialization because that's what we were conditioned to learn. Once I started practicing acupuncture and different levels of healing, I began to understand treating the whole person is what works. And what I see, a lot of what I see, and this is level 3 type of stuff, is medical failure. The people that have gone to 12 doctors, literally, I have people that have been to every specialist and every big name.
Yep.
And they've done it wrong. They come in with back pain. And I say, lie down face up on the table. And they lie face down. And I say, other face up. And they lay down face up. And I have to work on, for back pain, there's rectus abdominis. That's the six-pack muscle. And psoas, I'm not even going to describe it. You can look it up. It starts with a P. And they have particular patterns. So if there's pain straight across the low back, that's rectus abdominis. That's a six-pack muscle. But no one has worked on that muscle because everyone's just gone to the back because that's a symptom. That's how medicine goes. And so what I see across the board, and this also goes for why I do the coaching and why I do the hypnotherapy to connect to the subconscious, because people I see in therapy, I saw a woman yesterday, literally her sister had sent her to see me. Depression and anxiety for 20 or so years. Started off with a conversation similar to what we did a week or two ago. This woman got more in the first 15 minutes. She was in tears discussing building self-love, connecting to herself, finding herself. Why do I do this all? Because the other people are not delivering at that level. They're and I can't make anyone else do something. So and if I don't know how to do it, I'm not afraid to refer out. I'll give you one last example but if anyone's ever seen a physical therapist or a chiropractor,
yep,
you go in there and they tell you have a weak muscle, right?
Yep.
Worst thing they could possibly do. Why am I the only person that notices this? What's wrong with that? They're technically correct. The muscle is weak. But when a normal person hears weak muscle, what do we want to do? We want to work out that muscle. We want to strengthen it because we think it's a flaccid muscle. More times than not, the muscle is in a severe pathological state of spasm. The worst possible thing we can do is start working out that muscle. We're abusing a muscle that's already stressed. Now, this example I give really upsets me because I can't be the only person that sees this. What they're saying is technically correct, but it's not what the patient is hearing. And that lack of awareness of the communication of what the patient's experience is and being able to internalize it, I believe is just really good for my business. And I'm exceptional. It's funny. I was talking to a patient yesterday. She really didn't even know I do muscle work. That's sort of what I started with. So it's so easy for me. So sports medicine, stuff like that. She came in with a stiff neck. No idea to do muscles. But I didn't just do the neck. I ended up going through, getting to the subscapularis, through the armpit, all this other stuff, to go for the deep pathologies that have been there for over a decade, to try to open up the whole pattern. Because we have this whole thing. Oh, I hurt my shoulder 20 years ago. And we lock that in the mind. That's all the mind stuff I do. And we hold it in the body through these patterns of tension that never get released. So I release those in whatever technique I choose. So that's sort of what I do.
Lots of questions or thoughts. First off, it makes perfect sense. If you've stretched a muscle and you have an issue, why do you want to beat on it even more? Like I never thought of it.
It's not weak. It's in spasm. It's tight, causing weakness.
Never thought of it in that way.
It's not your job.
Well, yeah. And so truth be told, about a year ago or so, I had it appeared to be a slight rotator cuff issue. Wasn't really that bad, but it was a little troublesome. I think it happened from playing tennis. I play tennis in the summertime, maybe like once a month, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think it may come from that. And it's just like when I would reach back behind my car, I would feel it. It'd be tight, like, oh, all right. Went to physical therapy once. Was honestly and truly, and I'm never negative, complete waste of time. It just never went back. And I just let it resolve itself. But somebody said to me, an energy healer, now, all right, we're opening the woo-woo door. Walking through. Somebody said to me that if you have pain on the right side, it's shoulder, it's typically connected to a female challenge or issue. I'm talking energy here. And
yes.
At the time, there was something going on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's, and I've shared that with others, but I didn't tell them, I didn't get into any detail. And they agreed, like, you know what? Yes, they got something going on. And it could even be a woman having pain on the right side and having an issue with her best friend who is a woman. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a romantic situation. But that opened my eyes to a little bit more of what's potentially going on here. I know I'm walking through the woo-woo door here.
Well, but let's let ourselves play and understand its multiple levels simultaneously.
Sure.
So part of you was playing tennis. Part of you overdid it. Part of you got the pain. Not saying that's separate from. So the cause, it all ties together. And here's the funny part. I know exactly what you had, and I could fix it in about 30 seconds.
And I'm not saying it came from tennis. I'm just saying that it seems likely with the movement, but it might not be.
It's all the same dance. It is tennis. What you described is actually, this is what I do. People don't realize I do this. So you wouldn't have been able to take your arm and go backwards like that, aside from also reaching behind your back. It's a muscle called subscapularis. It's located on the front of the shoulder blade. So it's actually between the shoulder blade and the ribs. And I get to it through the armpit. And most people don't do that muscle. Most people don't do the psoas. So they literally, I save people from surgery on the regular because doctors, you have that tight muscle. You go to physical therapy and you don't see an exceptional physical therapist. They let it ride. You get worse. Next thing you know, what's left? Oh, I'm going to go see the orthopedist. They cut it apart and put it back together the whole time. There's a muscle that's tight that just needs a signal that says you can let go now. That's it. And all I do, I compress, I can lightly touch, I can put a needle in the muscle, and then I just retest that range of motion. Literally 30 seconds to a minute later, you're whole.
Wow.
I really have to video this because it's unbelievable, but it's absolutely, the body wants to heal. But if you're pushing the wrong buttons and doing it backwards, so when people come to see me, there's not another stop. There's people who are not even candidates for surgery. Literally, I'm the end of the road. And frankly, that's a fair amount of pressure because I take it seriously. I take my responsibility very seriously. So it upsets me to hear that, like, you go to physical therapy, you go to a doctor, frankly, you go to an acupuncturist. I consider myself an ambassador for the profession because most people know nothing about it. I have to get results because if I don't work, they say acupuncture doesn't work, and that's not a true statement.
You're bringing back memories of that situation, and the range of motion for me was this.
Yes.
I'm not doing it the right way because things are in the way here, but
I know what you're saying. You can't reach behind your back,
and it still has a little bit of tightness. It's looser on the other side.
Oh, you're gonna love me. I swear to you, I'm not even kidding.
I believe every word.
Like, as soon as you said it, you described. I make lists in my brain. Check, check, check. I know what it is.
It's probably a classic case. I know that you're intuitive. You harness the power of energy. In that situation, use me as an example. It's not about me, but just it was an example. Things came up. What's going on energetically? Is there a connection to the energetic world when we have these things, physical things that present?
So this is a really fun question because I don't like it. There's a reason. Because I have to use different filters when I'm approaching different problems. So yes, there was an underlying psycho-emotional that has correlation. But generally with a subscap, I'm going to work on the muscle layer. And then from there, take a look at psycho-emotional spiritual. Because there's correlation and causation. The fact that it was tennis, and because that particular movement, blah, 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 the easiest way for me to go, put a needle in there, release the muscle. Takes about 30 seconds. Test your range of motion. If you're still, because you could have processed through whatever relationship stuff was happening, but you retain the residual because the body hasn't let it go. If it comes back, if it creeps back, whatever, then we have a different conversation. And that conversation would be more pertaining to where you're holding stress, tension, what you're not letting go of, where resistance is, etc. If you were particularly needle sensitive, I actually did this on the patient yesterday when I got to the deeper muscles. I was all the way up in her armpit and I was pressing there. And the intuitive is so, it amazes me every single time because I was told, press under her toe. And I felt the muscle melt like my finger was on butter. I felt it just soften. And then I pressed. And let me tell you, so I press with a few ounces of pressure to find an area that's painful, maybe a little bit more. Then I press again to calibrate myself to make sure I know angle, location, pressure. Keep my finger there. Then I find the point that's going to fix it. Touch that, press it, put a needle in it depending on what I'm doing. And I never know what I'm doing till I do it. And then I press the painful spot. Twice as hard, 3 times as hard, 4 times, whatever it is. Because I don't want us to pretend. I don't want someone to think they're better. They're going to be like, wow. I start pushing them across the table because I don't play. I want you to walk out and be, I'm new. And this woman is like, my God, that's been bothering me for over a decade. And no one's been able to get to it.
Where are most practitioners missing the mark?
So, honestly, they don't pay attention. They're not listening. They're not present. That's where they miss the mark. Honest to God, you walk in. So you walk in with back pain and they start playing with your back. They're not testing to see what the back pain is from. They're not asking the in-depth questions. I don't know if it's because of the paperwork or because medical doctors are conditioned out of critical thinking. They're conditioned by paperwork to follow procedure and not to see the patient as a whole. I don't know. Here's the worst one. I got to throw this out there because this is a public service announcement. I've seen multiple patients, and one of them even brought it right up with his doctor, that have, these are men, I've also seen it in women, that have severe osteoporosis. And I asked one of them, so how's your testosterone? Testosterone's fine. Okay. They're too young for it. But I look at their intake. Their intake has them on PPIs. That's going to be Prilosec, proton pump inhibitors, stomach acid medication for over 20 years. PPIs rot your bones. There's a label. It's like a black label warning not to ever be on it for more than 2 years. These doctors continue and the pharmacists continue to fill this. And then the surgeons that they see, because their bones are falling apart.
Oh.
Everyone sees it on your intake. Nobody looks. I see it and I fly. I'm just like, holy moly, we have to get on top of this. It's usually a hiatal hernia. And I'm like, at this point, you probably have to get the surgery. I'm not a big fan, but got to do what you got to do. You cannot stay on this medication. This is, in my opinion, criminal because what happens physiologically, the PPI is going to lower stomach acid production. The stomach acid, when we make a molecule of hydrochloric acid, the stomach makes an associated, so it's like positive and negative, makes an associated molecule of bicarbonate. Bicarbonate buffers blood pH. Now, we also need stomach acid to absorb minerals. So we're not absorbing the minerals, and our blood pH is beginning to get acidic. Now, I can ask you, what is the primary purpose of bones is to hold us up, but more importantly, is to be a battery for minerals. We need calcium to keep our heart beating. So if that gets low, it gets pulled from the bones because our bones have to hold us up. But more importantly, we're not going anywhere if our heart stops. So prioritizing, it's going to scavenge and pull from the bones to buffer the blood. So we're not absorbing minerals on one side. We're not making bicarbonate. And we're pulling these minerals from the bones to buffer the blood. So we're literally turning the bones into Swiss cheese. And doctors do this all day, every day. And this is one small example of not taking the patient. And I'm sorry for going so much into it, but I know there's a lot of people out there who are doing this. And you have to take responsibility for your health because I can't do it for everyone. I try, but I can't.
I appreciate it and I understand it. And I had ulcer, digestion issues, et cetera, all fabulous and fantastic now. But yes, I was taking Nexium, same thing.
Yes.
And
there you go.
I believe, if I remember correctly, they tell you that you shouldn't be taking it for more than even 2 months.
Yes, the over-the-counter has, I think it's 2 months, maximum 6 months, and the prescription dropped at 2 years, and no one's ever taken off of it.
Yeah.
That's, by the way, what I love about the hypnotherapy and the coaching, because that's working with the subconscious. Huge help for the autonomic nervous system, in addition to the acupuncture, and that's going to help to regulate and modulate digestive.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not just, my stomach has an issue. No, in my understanding, there's other issues, and that's why, be it stress, anxiety, things going on, that's why it's manifesting in the stomach. And then I've spoken to some people before, as a nutritionist a few years ago. His belief is that often it's not the production of too much acid in the stomach, it's too little. And what are we doing? Dropping, the Nexium and the Prilosec down there, and it's counterproductive.
Yeah, in a nutshell, it's not the acid that digests the food, it's the enzymes. And the enzymes need the acidic environment. And when the environment's not acidic, the food tends to, rather than getting broken down correctly, it sort of rots and it sort of bubbles. And also, without good enough acid, we don't close the upper sphincter of the stomach. So it's not fully closed. There's a buildup of, and It's a tragedy.
That's what
it's
I
really
heard.
a tragedy.
Just what you said. And that's what he described. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so easy just to, we're so programmed, walk in, OTC, Prilosec, get it, I used to buy it like like Costco because it was cheaper. Get the generic brand because you're taking them every day. And then when it gets worse, then you get a prescription for it. Now they up the dosage. And all you're doing is, in my opinion, just beating on your body. Yeah. And
It's horrible.
yeah.
So I don't like to take a negative tone. And that's exactly, but it is what I see. Yeah, and the doctors don't have an easy job. I'm not trying to beat up on anyone.
Yep.
But I want to circle fully back to explain why I'm saying all of this, which is why I do everything. Because I do not see other people doing their job. I have to be that second, third, or fourth set of eyes. I have to dive deeper. I have to connect.
Yeah.
And I take it very, very seriously. And I have fun doing it. I'm laughing, having a blast all day. But I'm very serious with what I do because people are trusting me, and I honor that trust.
Look at our healthcare system. And again, not beating on anybody, but, the average I hear is 11 minutes you have with the doctor, which also includes the nurse coming in with the intake. And by the time he gets or she gets in there, you're looking at maybe 6 minutes, something like that, if that. So what's the easiest remedy? Let me just write you a script. Yeah, I'll give you more Prilosec. That's it. Let me know how that's going for you. Now that we've talked about, as an example, the digestion issue, somebody presents to you, they have acid reflux or what they describe to be, or think they have it, just uncomfortable, it's just, my stomach's just something's not right. What would you do?
All right. So first off, I'm going to just do something really fun, which is so often what doctors give, they don't diagnose, they give billable codes. So it's kind of funny. Like I've seen so many sciaticas that are on the side of the leg, and that's not anyway. So someone comes in.
I know what you're talking about because I have a friend who's a medical biller, and we talk about this.
It's all billable codes. Yeah. So yeah, watch out when you go to like urgent care and they want to test you for every flu and everything under the sun. Yeah, it's all billable codes. So someone comes in to see me. What am I going to do? I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to find out who they are, how long they've had the problem, what preceded it, how their diet is, what their stress level is, what their sleep is. That's where we start. Now, a lot of people, there's so many places to go from there. One of them, biggest one, is start drinking better water and eating some vegetables. Believe it or not, that does wonders for some people. There may be a need for a zinc supplement to help with making hydrochloric acid. There's also support. So I do supplementation. I might do muscle testing. It's amazing because then to describe the acupuncture is a little funny, but I do what's called reflex testing. So I'll press in the area of the stomach. And I'll press lightly. I'll find the resistance, the pain, whatever. And I'll put a needle in, maybe stomach 36, very common point. And literally the stomach starts gurgling. The whole thing just relaxes because so many people are stuck in what's called fight or flight, autonomic imbalance, sympathetic dominance, whatever words we want to use. But stress shuts down the digestive system. And if they're not handling life well, it's going to go right there.
Wow. I've never heard that. We're out of time, but I've never heard that stress, all that shuts down. That makes perfect sense now.
And for a guy who was on Nexium, it really upsets me. Someone should have told you.
Not anymore. I'll never touch.
Not anymore.
Never say never, but I'll never touch that stuff again. We're out of time, but I'm going to tell you right here. You know what was the fix? Herbals.
Yeah.
I spoke with a master herbalist. She made a concoction of cat's claw, catnip, marshmallow root, took it for 2 days. It was like, I was a new person. And she said, drink aloe vera juice with pulp just to, coat your stomach. that'll support you. That vial, that dropper bottle, I now give it to friends when they have issues because it works so well. But again, there's other things out there instead of just popping a pill and, the 5-minute visit with your PPC. Chris, love the information. How does somebody connect with you? And now I know you're in Scarsdale, but a lot of this can be done virtually over the phone and such. How do they find you?
So my primary acupuncture, that's going to be my physical practice, is scarsdalehealth.com. And contact information would be on there. And for the coaching, hypnosis, all the remote would be level3coaching.org, spelled out.
Gotcha. Great talking with you today. I tried to go woo-woo. I was woo-woo, and you were steering it the other way from the physiology portion of it. But either way, wonderful stuff. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll catch up soon. We'll be right back.
Yep.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.